Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Steve Sebelius.
Welcome to the Review-Journal's Judicial Candidate Debate. Today we're going to hear from candidates in Family Court Department J. We'll start with opening statements from all the candidates. We go in alphabetical order. So let us start with Ms. Butler.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to the Review Journal for providing me with this opportunity to discuss my candidacy. I am Dee Butler, and I'm running for Family Court Judge in Department J. My desire is to serve the community that has given so much to me. I did attend the William S. Boyd School of Law right here in town, and I started in private practice at a firm, Schutz & McGahey, where I primarily focused on family law and insurance defense. I was one of the few attorneys who enjoyed the family law cases, so I received a lot of them. I then moved on to the public defender's office in the juvenile division of the family courts, where I represented our most vulnerable, our children. I've been in the public defender's office for the last 10 years, and I do currently serve as team chief of the domestic violence unit. I definitely understand the intersection between criminal and family law, and I am dedicated. I understand that we need family court judges who are passionate, fair, and diligent, and who will provide an opportunity for all parties to be heard. That is why I'm running for judge, and I hope to earn your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Judge Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Sebelius, and I want to also thank the Review Journal for providing us with this forum, especially during this difficult time. Voting is still important, and while many families are quarantined or at home, like I am, then it's so important to get this information out to the voters, and I thank the Review Journal for providing us with this forum, so we can get the message out to the voters. While it may not be the first and foremost thing in their mind, eventually they will want the information so they can make an informed vote. I've been on the bench, as you said. I was elected in 2014. Prior to that, I had over 27 years of experience in family law. I was certified by the State Bar of Nevada as a family law specialist. I've always practiced family law. I've represented hundreds and hundreds of clients through all walks of life, and I have done many pro bono services as well when I was a practicing attorney. As a judge, I've presided over hundreds, if not thousands of cases, and it is my passion and my focus to serve the people of Clark County and to provide them with a fair tribunal. I know the law. I'm well versed in the law, and I will apply it fairly to represented and unrepresented people equally. I'm seeking the support of Clark County voters again this re-election and ask that they provide me with their utmost open mind and support and their vote when it comes time for re-election. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Mr. MacDonald.
Thank you. And it's an honor as well for me to be a part of this process, in particular because I thought it was not going to happen in light of the quarantining going on with the coronavirus crisis we're all facing. So I'm honored to be a part of it. It's important that I correct your introduction of my credentials. While it's true that I've practiced in estate planning, probate, and bankruptcy, I've been practicing law for over 35 years, and during all of that time, I practiced in family law. So I've got an extensive background in the family law arena. I've been a long-time resident of Nevada. My family moved here in 1966. I graduated from high school here. I went to UNLV for a period of time, ultimately graduating from BYU, but came back to Nevada after college and after law school, and I've been practicing here ever since. And I'm excited now at this stage of my life to take the life experience that I've gained, both professionally and personally, and bring it to the bench, where I want to serve the citizens of the state of Nevada and provide people with an opportunity to be heard fairly and dispassionately, and provide what I hope will be a form of justice, and what is oftentimes for most people the only experience they'll ever face in front of a judge, and that's in family court. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. MacDonald. Let's move on to our very first question. This is going to be to Ms. Butler first. Access to justice is more critical than ever, especially when it comes to the very sensitive and emotionally fraught issues that come before the family court bench. Please discuss the impact for individuals and for the system when there is a justice gap, and what can judges specifically do to make the system more equal?
Being a public defender, I definitely understand that there is not equal access to justice, unfortunately, especially for people who do not have the economic means to afford private counsel. I stand in court every single day next to people who would not be able to afford counsel, and I make sure that I am a zealous advocate for them. People that have been thrown away, suffering from mental health issues, drug issues. Most of my clients, especially in the domestic violence sector, which is a specialty court, cannot afford a family court attorney either. So I've helped them. I explain that there is a self-help center. We have legal aid programs, and I will personally help guide them through the sometimes very complicated process that is family court. Our clients are very emotional. And I believe as a judge, you must have an even temperament and be incredibly patient to understand that, I don't know what the stats are now, but I believe it's about 60 to 70% of litigants representing themselves in family court. And you need judges who understand that they're going through a traumatic phase in their life. They never expected to be here. So as judges, we need to be prepared, passionate, fair, and diligent, and understand, and when we can, guide them in the right direction for the resources they need.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Judge Hughes.
Thank you, Steve. While I think it's important to help self-represented litigants, a judge has an ethical duty not to provide legal advice. So first and foremost, a judge has to be cautious and walk that line and not provide legal advice to litigants. But access to justice comes in many forms. I approve many informa pauperis orders, waiving filing fees for litigants who qualify under the general federal poverty guidelines. We have a self-help center that also provides them with guidance. We have Ask a Lawyer programs where attorneys volunteer their time. I also provide them with statutes and guidelines on how to prepare their cases for trial. I give them a handout and explain the court process to them during every case management conference. I tell them how to prepare their exhibits for trial, what they need to do, but it all has to come short of providing them with legal advice.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate that. Mr. MacDonald, what do you think about access to justice?
Well, first, let me say to both of my opponents, I thought their answers were outstanding. In particular, Judge Hughes, who obviously deals with this every day. Like both of my opponents, we see indigent clients with limited access to justice every day. One of my personal favorite pro bono activities is participating in the Ask a Lawyer program. I've been participating in that program now for a significant length of time, and it's eye-opening sitting with these individuals one-on-one in a private setting and letting them ask their questions, knowing that they really have nobody else to turn to, and trying your best to help them. There have been a number of instances arising out of that occasion when I've actually agreed to take on their representation by directing them to have the legal aid office send their case to me. But these are cases where people are going through a very difficult situation and they just simply don't know what they're doing. And the bottom line is we can pretend that there's equal access to the courts, but the reality is there isn't. There's so many people out there in the Valley, not just locally, but in every community, that just simply, due to lack of resources, don't have the ability to be properly represented in our courts. And as indicated by both my opponents, there's a lot of resources that are available, but there still isn't enough. We need to find ways, creative ways, to help these people get, have an opportunity to have a fair day in court.
Thank you, Mr. MacDonald. We will be right back with more questions and answers for the candidates in Family Court Department J right after this.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all of your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app and check out vegasnation.com to stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
Like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking to candidates in Family Court Family Court Department J, and our next question is for the judge, the incumbent, Judge Rena Hughes. Judge Hughes, you were publicly disciplined by the Judicial Discipline Commission in 2018 for your handling of a 2016 custody case, and you received a 42% retention score in the Review Journal's recent Judging the Judges survey. What does that say, you think, about your tenure and about your ability to continue to serve in this post?
Well, I don't think it says anything about my tenure or my ability to serve in this post. I think you take one case out of the hundreds, if not thousands of cases that I've handled, and you can't take that out of context. I mean, I've dedicated over 30 years of my legal practice to family law, and I study voraciously, and I am a great student of the law, and I've taken many, many courses over the past and tried to make myself as astute as possible. And that was an unfortunate case, and no one wanted that type of an outcome for a child who was in the middle of a high conflict dispute. But I certainly don't agree with the ruling of the commission, and it is on appeal with the Nevada Supreme Court. As far as what you said about the RJ poll, while I appreciate polls, unfortunately, there wasn't much of a participation in this one. I believe about 80 attorneys actually responded, and I have hundreds of attorneys who practiced before me. So I'm not quite sure why the results turned out that way. In fact, on reelectrena.com, I have over 70 attorneys who are practicing before me every day that do support my reelection. And those are the people that are important to me. They have faith in me as a jurist. They know that I'm fair and balanced and reasonable. I know the law, and I read absolutely everything that they file. I'm always well prepared for court, and I give them a fair, an unrepresented client or a represented client.
All right. Yeah.
So that is what I go by, not a poll or an ethics decision.
Understood. Thank you.
Sorry, I guess I'm out of time.
Thank
Okay.
you, Your Honor. I appreciate your answer. Mr. MacDonald, what do you think that judicial discipline ruling shows?
Wow, putting me on the spot. I think that Rena is completely accurate in some parts of her answer. She's, by all reports, an excellent jurist, and I've heard this from numerous attorneys. But the simple fact of the matter is that that was a horrendous decision that was made. It's hard to look at the video of that hearing and not just have your heart ripped out for the child that's literally screaming on the video regarding what's about to happen to this child. And some of the language that Judge Hughes used at the time of the hearing, in particular to the child, is just, it was just, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say it was a difficult moment, but it was a poor choice of words. The reality is, I know it was a high conflict case. I know it was a difficult decision. And I know there was some history to this case. And I also believe that at the end of the day, we all make mistakes. If I'm elected, I'm going to make them as well. But to be so dismissive of the outcome of the Commission on Judicial Discipline, I just think it's I think it's inappropriate. The reality is that this was a bad decision involving a family and in particular a child, and I think it would behoove Judge Hughes to just sort of own it, agree to learn from it, and then make her appeal to the electorate to give her another chance. But to be so dismissive of it, I think is, I'm just going to say, I think it's unfortunate.
All right, thank you. Ms. Butler, what do you think that judicial discipline case says?
Thank you. I just want to start and say I don't know Judge Hughes personally. I do respect her as a judge. I'm pretty sure I voted for her in the last election. But with that being said, that's why I agree with Mr. MacDonald that it was so disheartening and disappointing to watch that video. And I know that Ms. Hughes says it's just one case, and it's probably just one case of many to her, but for that family, like many other families, that's something that can stay with them for a lifetime, just how you're treated in court. It's very simple. You have to have the temperament to treat people with respect and with courtesy. to see that little girl, first of all, with her mother being dismissed, and I'm a mom of 3, ages 8, 6, and 1. So I do take this pretty personally. I've been there. I've been divorced in the system in Clark County, Nevada. So I understand what it feels like to stand in that space. So to watch that, it was incredibly hard to watch. I did a little background research. I understand that that was a case. I believe that Judge Hughes inherited with a very long, messy history, and many cases in family court are very difficult. I will give her that. But I do agree that there should be more responsibility taken there.
We will be back with more questions and answers for the candidates in Family Court Department J right after this.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all of your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app and check out vegasnation.com to stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're talking with candidates in Family Court Department J. Let's move on. Our next question goes first to Mr. MacDonald, and that is this. In family court, the issue of domestic violence is one that the judges see quite often. In cases involving domestic violence, how would you balance the rights of visitation for children with the rights of the victim and of the child to remain safe?
That's an outstanding question, and allow me to say, without naming the parties or the department, I'm involved in a case exactly like that right now. And these become very difficult cases, and I think they're difficult decisions for judges. But I would have to look at all of the factors. I would want to know, was the domestic violence directed only towards a spouse? I would want to know the factors in the background that led up to the incident, whether there was any history there. And in particular, I would want to know if there were any substantiated allegations of domestic violence that were directed towards the children themselves. In the end, I think that there's a lot of emotion in these cases. I think that husbands and wives can get themselves in crazy situations. It's best to separate themselves. But to the extent that there's no domestic violence directed towards the children, I don't think that the domestic violence perpetrated by one parent against the other ought to necessarily, again, taking into account the total facts of the case, result in the parent that was allegedly committed the domestic violence being deprived of access to their kids. I do not like to see that.
Ms. Butler, what do you think about that question?
Thank you. This is kind of my area. I deal with domestic violence clients on a daily basis, and it's complicated. First of all, just because you're charged with a crime does not mean that you're found guilty of a crime. So I would like to know if there is actually a conviction, more information about the facts of the case. But I talk to my clients about their component or companion family court cases all the time, because usually in these situations, if there's children in the home, there may be CPS already involved. DFS may have a history with the family as well. So I believe as a judge, you have to consider all of those factors, the history of the family, listen to both sides to determine what's going on. If the children are of age, teenagers, often they're very vocal about what's going on. So it is complicated. I tell my clients it generally puts them in a very poor position for custody. We try to get them into parenting classes, domestic violence counseling, all of that, so that they do have a better opportunity in family court. So it is very serious, should not be taken lightly, but we must consider that just because those allegations are made, does not mean that that person is actually found guilty of that, and that should be taken into consideration, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. And Judge Hughes, I'm sure you've actually seen cases like that in your courtroom. How do you balance those rights?
Unfortunately, Steve, I have seen a lot of that in my courtroom, and I have taken a lot of training through the state of Nevada and the National Judicial College on domestic violence, and not only what is domestic violence, but what are the psychological profiles of conflict an abuser, a victim, how the cycle repeats, how it affects children, their neuroscience. I mean, I've gone very, very deep into this subject and have studied it quite a lot. You have to cast a wide net. There's a lot of information that you have to have. You run through your protocols to make sure, and it's too lengthy for me to go into right now, but there are treatises on the subject, and I've studied them quite extensively, where you go through your protocols and you check all the boxes and you make sure that you dig into and get as much evidence on that family as possible.
We will be right back with more questions and answers for the candidates in Family Court Department J right after this. Welcome back to the Review Journal's Judicial Debate. We're hearing from candidates in Family Court Department J. We're now going to hear from the candidates with their closing statements. We're going to go in reverse order that we did at the beginning, and that means we will start with Ms. Butler.
Thank you for listening to me today. I want everyone to know watching that people in our community deserve judges who are compassionate, fair, and diligent. We also deserve judges who are prepared and efficient. If I am elected judge, I will make sure that everyone in my courtroom is treated with courtesy and respect and have an equal opportunity to be heard. It does not matter whether you can hire an attorney or if you're pro se. My job is standing beside people at their most difficult moments, and as a judge, I will understand the space that those members before me are coming from, and I will treat them with respect and make sure that they are heard. Thank you. I hope to earn your support. You can find out more about me on butlerforjudge.com or dsmartbutler on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Judge Hughes, your closing statement.
My thoughts and prayers are with them during this especially difficult time. And while voting may not be foremost on your mind, I hope that eventually we'll get to the point where you will think about voting and you will want the most informed, wise, and educated candidate, and that would be me. During the 5 years I've been on the bench, I've not seen either of my opponents before me ever in court. I'm not familiar with them at all, and I've been practicing family law for over 30 years. And I would want the public to know that I'm the most qualified person, and I appreciate their support in the past, and I would like their support again in the future.
Thank you, Judge Hughes. We appreciate that. And finally, Mr. MacDonald.
Thank you again. I want to say what an honor it's been to participate in this process. And I'd like the voters of the state of Nevada, of Clark County, to know that I know that this is a privilege, if elected, to serve in this capacity. It's nobody's right to do so. And I'm looking for their support. I will bring a mature and reasoned approach to the bench. And I would very much like an opportunity to serve. So if the voters of Clark County see fit to give me that opportunity, it'll be an honor. I'll do my very best to earn that honor, to work hard, to bring a reasoned and compassionate voice to Department J in the family courts. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. MacDonald, and my thanks to all the candidates who participated in tonight's judicial debate. We appreciate their time and their thoughtful answers. Stay up to date with news on all the political races for 2020 at reviewjournal.com. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Sebelius, and we'll see you next time.